And here we go. The official UFC 214 weigh-ins are officially underway. And how about this? Daniel Cormier, the reigning, defending UFC light heavyweight champion, making a statement, coming out first. In fact, he is coming out 6 minutes early. He was here earlier this morning, patiently waiting. So many questions about his weight, so many questions about his weight cut. Will he make the weight? And there you see him step on the scale. 205 for Daniel Cormier. He hits his mark and sends a message to all those who didn't believe that he'd be able to make the weight after the debacle in Buffalo back in April. The champion has officially weighed in. He hits his mark. That is championship weight, and a bit of a smile on his face. Have to imagine that there is a massive amount of pressure lifted off his shoulders. There he is, Daniel Cormier, weighing in thanks to his nutritionist, Tyler Minton, who's been working with him for the first time. You see him trailing Daniel Cormier. The champion is official, and what a message this is to Jon Jones, who has been talking about Cormier being the 206.2 pound champion. There seems to be an incident here with Jon Jones's brother, Arthur Jones, who has arrived, joined with some of Team Daniel Cormier, and he is sitting here. The NFL player is in attendance. We get back, all kinds of craziness going on here. We get back to the weigh-ins. There's Jason Knight. Hits his mark, as you hear there. Jason Knight, Mississippi Mean, the kid. He meets Ricardo Lamas on Saturday, an important fight in the featherweight division. He's replacing, oh my, and a loud yell by Jason Knight coming off the scale. Jason Knight weighing in at 145 pounds, and here comes his opponent, Ricardo Lamas. Always interesting when the opponents come in back to back. Here's the bully, Ricardo Lamas. Here comes Ricardo Lamas stepping on the scale. He was scheduled to meet Chan Sung Jung, and he hits his mark, 145.5 for Ricardo Lamas. So that means we have our first fight in the books. It's Ricardo Lamas versus Jason Knight in the featherweight division. As I mentioned, an important fight. There is a tension in the air here. There is a buzz in the air. Of course, some of the drama has left the building because there was a lot of questions surrounding whether or not Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier would actually meet on Saturday due to all their issues. Well, part of that has been addressed now that Daniel Cormier has officially weighed in. There's still a day and a half to go, but it does certainly feel like we are trending in the right direction here this morning. We move along now and welcome in Aljamain Sterling, who's scheduled to meet Henan Brow tomorrow night at UFC 214. Originally, this fight was supposed to take place in the 135-pound division with a 136-pound weight limit. But Andy Foster of the California State Athletic Commission changed the weight limit to 140 pounds due to concerns about Henan Barrow's past weight cuts. And there you see Aljamain Sterling, no problems for him, 139.9. Very happy, pointing to the easy work, he says, in reference to Floyd Mayweather's comments about one Conor McGregor just a couple of weeks ago. So there were no questions about Aljamain Sterling, and in fact, Henan Barrow tweeted a picture late last night that he had already made weight, so we'll await his arrival. For now, we will welcome in one Jared Brooks, who meets Eric Shelton tomorrow night. He is a firecracker, 12-0, fighting in the flyweight division. Jared Brooks very excited He hits his mark, 126. So excited that he has to be reminded that he needs to pose for the cameras, but he is now official. He is a bundle of excitement, that Jared Brooks, and he hits his mark. Meets Eric Shelton tomorrow. Jared Brooks, 12-0, fighting out of Detroit, Michigan. And now here comes Demian Maia, the co-main event fighter who will be fighting for in his second UFC title fight. He is fighting for the welterweight championship against the champion Tyron Woodley. And he hits his mark. The Brazilian hits his mark. 170 for Demian Maia. Was offered this fight just a few weeks ago. Had to take it. An opportunity of a lifetime. He has gone through a who's who in the welterweight division to climb back in title contention. Of course, he fought Anderson Silva at UFC 112 many moons ago in Abu Dhabi for the middleweight title. But since moving down to 170, he has been on a roll, and he is coming off an impressive victory over Jorge Masvidal at UFC 211. That's Demian Maia, the veteran, 25-6 overall. We move along now to the women's strawweight division and say hello to Kailin Curran. Must-win situation for her. She is 4-4. She steps on the scale. And she hits her mark, 115 for Kailin Curran. Hawaii's own Kailin Curran, 26 years young. She meets Alexandra Albu tomorrow night on the Fight Pass prelims. And as I mentioned, a must-win situation for the young Hawaiian. And how about this? Here comes Tonya Avenger, the longtime women's MMA veteran. Some might call her a pioneer. Stepping on the scale, she meets Cris Cyborg tomorrow for the vacant UFC women's featherweight title. And she hits her mark, 145 for Tonya Avenger. Welcome to the UFC, Tonya Avenger. It has been a long time coming. A long road to get here. She's now the former Invicta Bantamweight champion. And she is finally getting a chance to fight in the UFC. And how about this, in her debut, fighting against the one and only Cris Cyborg for the now vacant women's featherweight title. Of course, the first ever UFC women's featherweight champion, Germaine Duran. She won that belt against Holly Holm back in February in Brooklyn, New York. She was recently stripped of the title for refusing to fight Cris Cyborg. So now it is Cyborg versus Tonya Avenger, and Tonya Avenger is official. We move along now to Renato Moicano, who meets Brian Ortega tomorrow night. Moicano, the undefeated Brazilian, fighting out of Brasilia, has looked good in the UFC. And he hits his mark, 146 for Renato Moicano, 3-0 in the UFC, looking to go 4-0, coming off a split decision victory over one little heathen, Jeremy Stevens. So Renato Moicano is in the books. We say hello now to Renan Barao, who will be stepping onto the scale any minute now. As I mentioned earlier, he tweeted late last night that he was already under the 140-pound catch weight limit. This fight was originally supposed to be at 135 pounds. Andy Foster of the California State Athletic Commission, who you see on the stage, the bald-headed individual, changed it to 140 pounds due to Barao's past issues cutting weight. And so this all seems to be in the best interest of the fighters with their health and safety in mind. There is a pretty large crowd here in attendance, by far the largest that I've seen for one of these early weigh-ins. Certainly a buzz in the air here in the Southern California region as we say hello to the former UFC bantamweight champion, one Renan Barão, who now lives in Arizona. And of course, he'll be meeting Aljamain Sterling tomorrow night. Interesting. Andy Foster telling Renan Barão that he needs to re-weigh in, dropping his boxer shorts and using the towel. Barão has not fought since September of last year, and he hits his mark 140 pounds for Renan Barão, so he is official. That fight against Aljamain Sterling, near even as far as the odds are concerned. Barão, a very happy man, looks a lot healthier as a 140-pounder than as a 135-pounder. And so you have to applaud Andy Foster for putting his foot down on this one. California blazing the trail as the top commission here in the United States. And not much of a complaint from Renan Barão, not having to cut the extra 4 pounds. And here he comes, Johnny Bones Jones, the return of the king, the greatest of all time, the former UFC light heavyweight champion. He has been in great spirits all week long. He appears to be live streaming this weigh-in process, and he steps on the scale for the first time since April of 2016. Here he is. And there you have it. Jon Jones, 204.5. One of the most anticipated fights in UFC history is now official, and Jones having fun with the crowd, posing off. He hits his mark. Daniel Cormier hit his mark. The main event for Saturday night, just like that, is official. No time to let that soak in. We say hello now to Donald Cerrone. He'll meet Robbie Lawler tomorrow night. And Cowboy Cerrone, who was supposed to fight earlier this month in Las Vegas at UFC 213, hits his mark. He had a blood infection. Also, Jimmy Manawa, the man who will meet Volkan Ozdemir tomorrow in what could very well be a light heavyweight title eliminator. The British fighter Jimmy Manawa fighting out of London, England. About to step on the scale. They call him Poster Boy. 17-2 overall. 204.5 for Jimmy Manawa, one of the hardest hitters in the UFC. Again, fighting out of London, coming off that impressive victory over one Corey Anderson. He has won his last 2 fights in a row. He defeated Ovince St. Preux back in October, and of course, Corey Anderson back in March. Now we say hello to one Drew Dober. Drew Dober meets Josh Burkman tomorrow. Drew Dober about to step on the scale. 17-8. Coming off a loss to Olivier Aubin-Mercier. 155 for Drew Dober. He is a happy man. He hits his mark, meeting the veteran Josh Burkman tomorrow night on UFC Fight Pass. Drew Dober, 17-8 overall. He hits his mark. Move along now and welcome in Alexandra Albu, the women's strawweight fighter who will be meeting Kylan Curran tomorrow night, just 2-0 in her young career. They call her Stitch. She is fighting out of Moscow, Russia. 1-0 in the UFC. She steps on the scale, and she hits her mark. 115 for Alexandra Albu. Looking to go 2-0 in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Born in the Republic of Moldova. She has not fought since April of 2015. She is a slight favorite over Kylie Curran. 126 for Eric Shelton, stepping on the scale. He meets Jared Brooks tomorrow. So that fight is official. We've seen Jared Brooks. We now see Eric Shelton. Here comes Switzerland's Volkan Ozdemir. Stepping on the scale. He meets Jimmy Manawa on Saturday, an important fight in the light heavyweight division. Volkan Ozdemir, what a story this is. 2-0 in the UFC. He's coming off a somewhat shocking win over Misha Serkinov back in May of this past year. 14-1, they call him cousin. Defeated Misha Serkinov in 28 seconds. Stepping on the scales, Volkan Ozdemir. 205.5 for Volkan Ozdemir. So Volkan Ozdemir and Jimmy Manawa are now official. 205.5 for the half Swiss, half Turkish fighter. Now we say hello to Josh Burkman, the MMA veteran. We thought that he was going to retire. But he is back for more. He meets Drew Dober on Saturday. 155.5 for Josh Burkman. He is back in the lightweight division. He hits his mark. Has lost his last 3 fights in a row. And now the Burkman-Dober fight is official.
Kelvin Cater.
Up next, it's Kelvin Cater. And he hits his mark. Kelvin Cater meets Andre Feely tomorrow. Took this fight on short notice. They call him the Boston Finisher. He is a promoter in the New England area. And now finally getting to fight in the UFC. 16-2 overall. He's won his last, I believe, 8 in a row. He is a plus 265 underdog. And here comes the reigning, defending UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley. Looking to step on the scale, appears to be in phenomenal shape. He'll be defending his welterweight title for the 3rd time on Saturday night. Almost exactly 1 year to the day that he became champion, July 30th, 2016, and he hits his mark. 170 pounds. So that means the welterweight title fight tomorrow night between Demian Maia and Tyron Woodley is officially in the books. It is official. Maia weighed in earlier. Woodley weighed in just now. So the co-main event is set for tomorrow night. All right, here we go. Here comes Cris Cyborg. Arguably the best female fighter in the world, looking to win the UFC title for the first time in her career. She's fighting for the UFC title for the first time in her career. She's stepping on the scale, fighting as a featherweight for the first time in her UFC career. What a run it has been for Cris Cyborg. And she hits her mark. That's 145 for Cris Cyborg. That means the second UFC women's featherweight title is set. Cris Cyborg against Tonya Avenger. What a road it has been for the Brazilian Cris Cyborg Justino. It's never easy for her when it comes to weight cutting, but one would imagine this time around it was easier than the last two when she was forced to weigh in at 140 pounds. There you see her flanked by the UFC Hall of Famer Tito Ortiz. Cris Cyborg gets it done, and tomorrow she looks to make history as just the second UFC women's featherweight champion in history. Here comes the former UFC welterweight champion, ruthless Robbie Lawler. Welcome back, Robbie Lawler. We have not seen him in around a year, and he hits his mark. That's 170 for Robbie Lawler. Good to see him back. Last fought when he was champion against Tyron Woodley back in Atlanta at UFC 201. And that means Donald Cerrone versus Robbie Lawler, one of the most anticipated fights on this stat card, is set. And now we say hello to Andre Touchy-Feely. He meets Kelvin Cater. Cater took this fight on short notice. And he hits his mark. Andre Feely is good to go. It has been a long road back to him. Fought out his UFC contract, re-signed recently, the Team Alpha Male member, looking to keep that particular team's good fortune rolling. Cater and Feely are official. It was supposed to be Doo Ho Choi, Feely. Feely just happy to be back in action. And here comes Brian Ortega, draped in towels. He shows up with 1 minute remaining. 10:59 a.m. Pacific time. He has to weigh in by 11 a.m. Pacific time, and it looks like he's going to do so right on the dot. It is 11 a.m. Pacific time. Ortega steps on the scale, and he hits his mark. 146 for Brian Ortega. His fight against Renato Moicano is official, and that means all 12 fights on tomorrow night's UFC 214 card are official. All 24 fighters have made weight successfully, and there you see Brian Ortega, who avoids having to cut his luscious locks. Southern California's own T-City, looking to remain undefeated tomorrow night against Renato Moicano. He weighs in exactly at 11 a.m. Pacific, and that means we are set for tomorrow night's UFC 214 card.